Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, how you doing? Welcome to the program. It's July 21. You're like me, you're eagerly awaiting this evening for the televised primetime. I know I was going to say July. Why am I? Well, because it is. January 6th Commission hearing. These hearings, which have been so skillfully produced, have created a narrative, and the narrative has built up to tonight's program. Although initially I suspect it was supposed to be perhaps the last hearing or televised hearing, since the hearings have turned up so much additional unexpected information, and since we now have the outrageous deep sixing of the Secret Service texts, there is much more for this committee to do. I was, if you look at the in the newspapers, how they'll have a grid for what's on TV tonight, and it's rare that you see almost a block of the same program. ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, CNN, MSNBC, and others. It's just the hearing. And that's a prime time. So looking at that is incredible, because you just don't see that much anymore, where there is an opportunity for Americans to share an experience. Of course, I mean, there are a million other stations, because of the plethora of opportunities on your television now, that will continue to do their usual thing, including, and outrageously, one so-called news operation, and that would be Fox. Here is a huge news event, and Fox does not carry it. The only one. So there you have January 6th committee, January 6th committee, January 6th committee, January 6th committee, Tucker Carlson, January 6th committee, January 6th committee. And so for those who just are determined not to hear or see anything factual about what happened that day and what their beloved president was responsible for that day, there's always that escape: Fox News. I was reading about Maryland had a primary yesterday. Tuesday. What day is it? I don't know. Tuesday. And in fact, the results are still not in on the Democratic side. But on the Republican side, the results are in. This is for who will be the next governor of Maryland. Normally, you don't give a damn, because we ain't there. But the guy who won the Republican nomination is a guy named Dan Cox. Now, the current governor is a guy that you probably have seen on television here and there. His name is Larry Hogan, And he has stood out among Republicans by being seemingly not of the Trump stripe. He has seemed like a serious Republican who believes in doing his job, governance, and as such, he has been pretty highly regarded by people in his state, including Democrats. So the Republicans of Maryland have been well represented by Larry Hogan. I believe he served 2 terms and probably is term limited. But for them to now shift to wanting Dan Cox, who, let me just sum him up in a few words. He is endorsed by the Republican candidate for governor of Pennsylvania. And that would be, of course, the horrific Doug Mastriano. And Dan Cox is as far gone as Mastriano. He actually tweeted during the January 6th insurrection, as the mob and the rioters were terrorizing our legislators and the poor police, outnumbered police. He tweeted that Vice President Mike Pence was a traitor when, of course, Mike Pence's life was still in jeopardy. So this is who, and of course, this is a Trump favorite. This is who the Republican primary voters have put in the slot for the midterm election. Now, I say the Republican primary voters, but in fact, I believe Democratic operatives have helped, because they have helped with ads, because they want this guy to be the standard bearer of the Republican Party, because Maryland is not a totally wacko state, and they wanted the candidate for the Republicans that the Democratic candidate would beat. Now, this is happening in other states, and some people say that this is a very dangerous game to play for Democrats, where there are open primaries, to disregard the Democratic race and instead vote in the Republican race and vote for the most noxious lunatic Republican. The assumption, again, being that in the general election, they will lose and a Democrat will win. But a lot of folks who obviously subscribe to the, to the idea that be careful about unintended consequences, think that this is playing with fire. At any rate, this is being teed up and has been teed up now in Maryland. This Cox is a QAnon type. In fact, Larry Hogan, the current Republican governor of Maryland, said when it became clear that Cox was the winner, he put out a message that he will not be supporting what he called the QAnon candidate. So there you have the sitting Republican governor saying he ain't going to vote for the guy who wants to be the next Republican governor, which suggests that Democrats helping along this outcome of the QAnon guy winning were probably smart. Now, who the Democrat is, who now has a better chance of winning, probably, is still undecided, but it appears, and I'm happy to see this, that it will not be Tom Perez, who I have never thought had much to offer. Tom Perez was the former head of the Democratic National Committee. And I have not a great deal of respect for the DNC and its work, and certainly during Perez's tenure. So he is currently losing. They're counting all the mail-in votes, and his opponent is 35,000 votes ahead. So it appears that a guy, I don't know, his name is Moore or something, will probably be the Democrat. So this idea that it's best for Democrats' chances if Republicans put up the most extreme candidate, I actually agree with that. I think that that's probably true. And this is what's obviously, I think, been proven about our primary system. It is the most rabid voters that turn out for primary elections, and they tend to be more on the fringe. They tend to be more liberal on the Democratic side, and they tend to be more conservative isn't even the word anymore, insane on the Republican side. And so when those candidates get to a general election and have to face everybody, voters who otherwise aren't that interested, they often lose, but they don't always lose. I'm starting to think, I was with friends last night and I said, the January 6th committee could well take Trump down, and by down, I mean wound him. And I think they already have wound him in a way, just peeling off the few Trumpians who actually do get wind of some of the information that is now coming out. And also those amorphous independent voters. And I'm wondering, as I look at 2024, which ain't that far away, in my head, I actually am hoping, and this might be insane on my part, please tell me if it is, I'm hoping Trump's still alive and standing, and in fact is the nominee for the Republicans. Because, again, using the same idea, I think he is so damaged. I think the vast majority of Americans now have a very clear idea of what having Trump as president gets you. That he would be decimated, even by a lackluster Democratic candidate. Now, I could be wrong. And I suspect, and I'm worried that this wounding of Trump, all the legal things in the January 6th, will give the Republican Party and its operatives a way to manage to push Trump to the side, and instead to have one like Ron DeSantis head their ticket. And that scares me. That scares me. Because him, I don't know. I don't know that he wouldn't win. I can't believe Trump would win. He didn't win the last time he ran. And for those of you who are thinking, yeah, but if he runs again and he loses, there'll be a civil war, there'll be a revolution, there'll be, I think that would happen no matter what. No matter if any Republican loses that national election, there would be the cries of fraud. And I don't know. We live in scary times, really scary times. So I'm just not sure what it is I'd prefer. But just looking at this Maryland race, and for that matter, at our Pennsylvania race, when the governor, when the Republicans put up these guys that are whack jobs, it certainly helps the Democrats get in terms of messaging and getting enough concerned people who otherwise might be disinterested out to the polls and then winning. I mean, that there would be a contest between an obviously competent public servant like Josh Shapiro and this lunatic, racist, anti-Semite, Christian, nationalist, QAnon loving, crazy guy. Does not speak well for our country right now. But I think that the crazies are still in the minority. So I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is. We got a call. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, there's another possibility I've been thinking on. Now they're pushing Liz Cheney out. So
yeah,
she's not going to win Arizona. It doesn't look like it. We don't know. So
not Arizona. She's Wyoming.
She gets pushed out.
Yeah.
Pisses her off because she does not want Trump in there. She runs. She siphons votes off of whoever runs, whether it's DeSantis or Democrats win. She could be the linchpin, and she might not even care if she wins the election, but she might care to stop them bastards. And I think that's on our side. I'm really sure she's going to run. I believe she will.
But run for what? I don't understand.
President.
Run
for president.
Yeah, you mean in a primary for the Republican nomination, or run?
She'll run as an independent. She'll tell them shove it up their ass, and she'll run completely by herself, and she'll siphon votes off whatever nominee they pick.
She'll siphon votes from the Democratic candidate as well.
Well, I think it's going to hurt the Republicans more than that.
No, I think that's. And I don't know if there's any. That scenario is way too scary to me. Way too scary.
Well, I think it's going to happen.
All right.
I just think she's going to run. Okay. I think maybe she thinks she's going to win. In that case, I hope she wins because we sure in the hell don't want the DeSantis, which I don't think he does. Another thing I think, too, if you're on the side of banning abortions, you cannot be president. You won't be president. I do believe that, and I do believe when September or November comes, they'll feel the wrath. They will see it. It will be shown in the polls. It will be shown in the votes. Now, they'll cheat in their states. They can. Yeah, they'll win those, but they're going to feel the wrath come November. I would bet my life on it. I'm sure I am.
All right.
I think it pisses me off, and I'm a man. It pisses me because as soon as you start taking rights away, then you might as well say we're headed towards communism or something. Or it might as well be China. The next you can't do this, then you tell you how many kids you could have and all this. It's pretty soon we're Red China. I mean, fascist, Red China, whatever one you be. I mean, communism, that's what these people want.
Okay.
I think they're all commies. I think we should start calling them communists. They was calling other people commies. We'll call them commies. We're socialists. They can be the commies. Who do you rather have?
No. No, we're the commies, according to them. They're the fascists. Okay? They ain't commies. No, God knows. They're fascists.
Why are we commies?
Well, because we commies, look, we're not commies, okay?
I know.
But socialism and the idea of communism have some things in common, that the state should provide services to the people and make things more equal and less vicious than, for instance, capitalism creates a pretty vicious environment with a lot of losers. Socialism is a way of allowing government to ameliorate that. That's my sense. The Republican Party is heading in the fascistic direction, not communism.
That's true. Yeah.
But you don't want either, okay? You don't want either.
You know,
and calling
us
commies is
absurd. I believe this. I believe we're the rich control it all, and the president and all that. Yeah, there's some power, but they say where it goes. They could crash the economy tomorrow. They have the power, and we're the best government. The rich pays for it. They're bought and paid for by the rich. Is what I'm trying to say. I just believe that, and I always have. And I think that's why everybody said, why doesn't the president do it? Because he can't. He's up against a rip corporation. They can make him or break him. Right now they're saying there's a recession. It really isn't a recession coming, but they're pushing that because there's election time. They do all these stupid, what's that?
Nothing. I'm chuckling. Oh. I don't know. You're sounding like, I don't know.
It's not
you're an everyman now. I don't disagree that that our government
are probably paid. I mean, they get money
from the pockets of the rich and powerful. I mean, it is, and it is all over the world.
And
people want power.
We wouldn't have that much power. Everybody.
Why do people want money? Because it gives you power. Why do people want power? Because it gets you money, and power and money, have
look at Manchin.
A rule.
Manchin, for example. There you go.
Yeah, sure. All right, you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was okay. The voice of every man today. Thank you. Hey, for those of you who care, I have it on good authority that the Pittsburgh Public Schools will announce this afternoon a new superintendent. Seeing as the last one was a bit of they've been having some difficulty. I hope whoever the next one up is up to the task. Maybe it's an impossible task. I don't know. You tell me. But an announcement will be made. I haven't paid a lot of attention to this. And it says here that they had a field of 29 applicants from 13 states and 1 foreign country. Huh. That intrigues me. So, whatever. One of those people is going to get announced and will be on your newscasts, local newscasts tonight. Hey, John Fetterman has been heard from. And I just want to point something out. He had his stroke, in February? I believe February. And he has been out, not on, there's been no campaigning. So that's March, April, May, June. I might be wrong about that date. Forgive me. But Fetterman, it seems to me that, initially what happened was sort of downplayed, and then it became clear that this was more serious. And he's finally sat down for 20 minutes with a reporter, well, on a Zoom call, so not in person. A reporter for the Post-Gazette. And he says he's going to be back on the trail very soon, and that he's more than up to it. He says he has no physical limitations, that he walks 4 to 5 miles every day. And then there's this, which, I think a lot of people weren't really focusing on the fact he had a stroke, which can do awful damage to a person. And we were never really let in on exactly what the consequences of that stroke were for him. And while he says physically he can do all that stuff, he also says he understands words. And he hasn't lost any of his memory. Again, that factual statement makes you think, oh, he understands words. Did he understand words 2 months ago? Maybe not. And then he says this, that he struggles sometimes hearing. And he says, I may miss a word or slur two together. Those are his words, which suggests that the impact of the stroke, and maybe the reason he doesn't want to be out on the campaign trail, is he presents sometimes as somebody who has had a stroke. Trouble hearing, it affected his hearing, and his speech is still not up to, where it was. And he says these things don't happen often, but he does work with a with a speech therapist. And that was all very sobering to me to hear that. I think he'll be a very good candidate, but he's heading into what is considered one of the most consequential Senate races in this election in November. And the Republicans, with a weak candidate, I think, in Dr. Oz, they ain't going to play nice. That's my bet. And they will look for opportunities to play up any missteps, any slurred words, any misunderstood things. I think a debate is going to be a little scary. I don't know. I'm just saying. And then the report also says that, wanting to be totally transparent, his people said that in this Zoom talk, that he had captioning on, so he could, and I didn't know, what, you can do that? What? He's having an interview, and somehow he was able to also read what the guy was saying? What the reporter was asking him? Just in case he didn't hear something right. I just want to say that this story, which I think was meant to be reassuring, made me nervous. Thank you, Gigi. She says his stroke was right before the primary in May. And he obviously has had some issues with speech. That's probably why he's not been heard from. Right. Hopefully the speech issue is the only lingering one. We need him to be okay. Yeah. If you think the one time we saw him when he was leaving the hospital or right after, it was a video taken in the hospital where he's seated and his wife is next to him. And she did most of the talking. My gosh, the guy's just 52. And we need him to win. The country needs him to win. That brings me actually to Toomey, who is the reason there is this hotly contested race, because Toomey, the guy who holds the seat right now, is not running. So that opens it up. And where it was Toomey, it will in the future soon be either Senator Fetterman or Senator Oz, God help us. And I have never been a fan of Toomey's. The efforts by some to suggest that he was somehow a reasonable Republican, that he was, oh, wow, this just out, Biden tests positive. Well, you know, it can't be out and about like he's been out and about and not. I've been wondering when this would happen. So the president has tested positive for COVID and is, according to the White House, and this is what you hear from most people who test positive now, is experiencing so-called mild symptoms. As I said, I've had a lot of friends just in the last few weeks who are careful people who but are living their lives and have tested positive, and it's no picnic. And I think what they have suffered are also what are considered mild symptoms. So, wow. So in regard to Toomey, as I was saying, that's big news. I'm going to steal a little thunder from the January 6th committee hearing. Because, as you know, Clarence Thomas, in his concurring opinion, that destroyed and took away half of the population's right to control their own bodies, he did say that given the law that the Supreme Court, the reasoning they had used, it would also make sense to revisit other what Clarence Thomas considers wrongly decided prior Supreme Court cases, and he mentioned he mentioned gay marriage. And he mentioned contraception. Unbelievable. And so, because this is the threat that has been opened up by Supreme Court we have now, thank you to the Republicans and to Donald Trump, taking rights away and disregarding so-called settled law and precedent in doing so, that the Congress needed to very quickly pass a law that federalizes these issues. So there needs to be not a court decision that says gay people can marry, not a court decision that says women have a right to control their own bodies, but it has to come from the legislature. Okay. So because there's this implied threat, more than implied, from Clarence Thomas, one of the justices, that gay marriage could be in jeopardy, the Democrats sought to, as you know, make this a law, a federal law. And you know how laws always have names? This name of this law, which has passed the House, as we know, with 3/4 of Republicans voting against it, is called what? Respect for Marriage Law. It's called Respect for Marriage Law. And you know what it does? It replaces a law that is still on the books that was called, so you got, Respect of Marriage Law. The law it will replace, if it were to pass, is the Defense of Marriage Act, which was signed into law by President Bill Clinton. You remember that? And the Defense of Marriage Act was an act that said marriage is between a woman and a man. It was that was our federal government speaking loudly and clearly, and our president, Bill Clinton, signing it, that said gay people couldn't marry. So the one that the Democrats are floating now, and has passed the House, as I said, is saying, oh, yes, they can. And DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, is toast. At the time, I remember thinking it was unbelievably ludicrous that an act called the Defense of Marriage Act was signed into law by a president who was known as an adulterer. There he was signing this bill defending marriage. And the principal sponsor in the House was a guy who's been married like 100 times, Bill Barr. Remember him? These were the men that were defending marriage. Well, I say this because I saw today that since this thing now moves over to the Senate, gay marriage, there are actually some Republicans who have come out and said they will support it. And they are, at this point, Susan Collins, Rob Portman of Ohio, who saw the light when his own son, came out to him. Often that is the case. Lisa Murkowski, Alaska, and I think surprisingly, Tom Tillis of North Carolina. There's already 4 Republicans who say they will support it. Now you need at least 6 more to even get it to the floor. You need those 10 to get it to the floor. And Toomey was asked, would you vote for this bill, which says people can marry who they damn well want to marry? I mean, pretty much. And here's what Toomey said. I got it here somewhere. Oh, damn, I don't have it. Oh, wait, here it is. Toomey said, the mealy-mouthed current senator said, I haven't. Why can't I find it? I had it right here. Here it is. I have not looked at that bill. I've looked at the bill, and I'm not the friggin' senator. I've looked at the bill. It's all of 3.5 pages long, double spaced. It is not a heavy read. It is very just right out there. I haven't looked at the bill, says Senator Toomey. So I'm not going to speculate on something I haven't seen. Boy, he can't be gone soon enough. I just want to say. He doesn't even have the courage to say what he really thinks. At least you got, let's hear it for Marco Rubio, the senator representing Florida. He said he's voting against that gay marriage bill if it gets to the floor, which it probably won't. He said it's a stupid waste of time. And he went on to say, I know plenty of gay people in Florida that are pissed off about gas prices. I know. I had the same reaction. What? All right. Oh, God. Speaking of gays, I don't know if you saw this. I don't think it's gotten a lot of attention, and I don't have a lot of information, but there's a guy who's gay, and he lives in the godforsaken state of Oklahoma. I say godforsaken, all these red states. And he is a person who takes seriously the idea of public service. And so he served as a city council member. He lives in some strange place called The Village, Oklahoma. Like, that's a name of the city, The Village. And he was elected to their council. And then he was elected as the mayor. And this is a few years ago. And they voted him in Oklahoma, even knowing he was gay, which was considered like, whoa. He is the village's youngest and first openly gay elected official. I'm looking at his letter of resignation because he's not the mayor anymore. And I'll just read you a line or two. Certain elements of the population have recently become emboldened to pursue threats and attacks bordering on violence. In the last month, I've been followed home from meetings, threatened while walking my dog, harassed at Starbucks, and have had my tires slashed. These malicious, bad faith attacks are escalating, and I no longer feel safe to serve in my capacity as mayor. It is with a heavy heart that I tender my resignation, effective immediately. Well, yeah. The thugs, the haters, the brown shirts are, as this ex-mayor says, emboldened. They've been emboldened by Donald Trump. They've been emboldened by the Republican Party, who, it just astonishes me. that anyone can continue to support. A party that begets this kind of violence and intimidation. That's how they roll. Violence, intimidation. And not everybody's got the balls Liz Cheney has. She also has the resources to have security. This guy, the mayor of a little place in Oklahoma, he didn't have any security. So the haters and the thugs got what they wanted. They intimidated him out of office. He's whatever. He said, okay, I'm gone. Now, you can't blame him. Didn't want to end up dead. Incredible. Sorry, I'm sighing in your ear again. I don't know. All I have here, I'm looking at stuff I have in front of me, and it's just more, hey, here's something I have in front of me that's not. Remember I said the other day that I thought I should try to exercise my brain a little bit more, and how it wasn't enough to do all the word games I'm always doing because I'm too good at them. I mean, I love them, and they do make me think. But it's all of that is exercising a part of my brain that is very well exercised. The part of my brain that needs exercise is the other half, which has to do with things like numbers and spatial concepts and stuff like. I mean, it's just absolutely moribund. I never. It's just not where my interests lie, and I've never enjoyed it. But I decided that maybe I should, because I'd read a book review, somebody who was like me, and so decided to see if even as an adult, he still was incapable of comprehending algebra and geometry and all that stuff. So I followed through. I often blather on and then don't do a damn thing. I did follow through, and I'm holding in my hand a book. It's big. It's over 600 pages. But it says, the title is Everything You Need to Ace Pre-Algebra and Algebra. So I got it here, and I have to say, I've opened it once. And dear Lord, it really starts at, it starts very basically. And do you know what? I was blown away by the first few pages and already intimidated. Because I'm just going to, here it is. Because I didn't know what the first 2 pages were like news to me. Chapter 1, the heading is Types of Numbers. I didn't know there were types of numbers. And it turns out the first one is, see if you got, do you know these terms? Natural numbers? Well, natural numbers, it turns out, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They are often called counting numbers. And then next are not unnatural numbers, but whole numbers. And what's bizarre is whole numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're just exactly like natural numbers, although they include 0. Couldn't they somehow get those both together? So right now, I'm already thinking I'm not going to remember the difference between natural and whole, since it seems to me that they're pretty much the same, except one's got a 0 in it. I don't remember learning any of this stuff before. And then I remember this word, integer. And that's just the numbers, all those numbers, the whole ones, the natural ones, and then the ones that you can put a minus sign in front of, so they're the negative guys too. Okay, I'm with that. But then it gets more complicated. I thought, well, that's it. What else could you have? You got natural, you got whole, which I think you could put together, and you got integers, which brings in the minus sign thing. But the next one already has me slightly flummoxed. Because the next category, rational numbers. I thought, oh my God. That mean they're irrational numbers? And it turns out there are. Who knew? I didn't know. Numbers, I thought, by their very nature, are supposed to be, definite kind of things. There they are as a number. That's rational. But so numbers can also be irrational? Here's what it says. I'm just telling those of you who, like me, weren't exactly great at high school algebra and geometry. Rational numbers turned out to be the numbers that can be written by dividing one integer by another. Oh, okay. Big deal. So that means fractions? All right, so fractions are now called rational numbers. Why not call them fractions? Because it turns out it gets more complicated. God. And then it says natural numbers, whole numbers, and integers are all rational numbers. That's page 3, and my head is already spinning. I'm just telling you. And then we get to the irrational numbers, and here's the definition. Listen to this. The set of all numbers that are irrational numbers are the set of all numbers that are not rational. Well, duh. So I'm just here to tell you that if you're wondering, that these are numbers that cannot be written by dividing one integer by another. Is if you do it as a decimal, it just goes on and on and on, like pi. Ask me what pi is, but I know it goes on and on and on and on. And there's no repetition in the on and on and on and on. God. I have to tell you, I so don't already get it. I just wanted to get to the point where I could have, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Because right now, if I close the book, I would not necessarily be able to tell you the difference between natural, whole, rational, and irrational. Oh, and then it turns out there's real numbers. That's the last category. And then it turns out real numbers are all everybody. Everybody's a real number. Even the irrational guys get to be real numbers. Do you know this stuff? And then I quit where the next heading is some important points about decimals. I thought, oh dear God. I mean, I feel panic. I do. I feel panic. But I think I'm going to keep, at it. Maybe I'll make it to like chapter 5. What do you think? Roger writes, oh, I thought you were being serious. Roger writes, irrational numbers represent the more conservative aspects of math. There's now a movement towards alternative numbers. Oh, God. Oh, God. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the Republican voters don't agree that they're with any of this, because it's like, I guess, generally, precedent. It's what people acknowledge as fact. So, I don't know. God Almighty. And I suspect part of my, like I'm going in with this, lack of confidence anyway, and a sense of myself as incapable, which doesn't help. But, oh, brother. And I read this thing the other day about how guys who are really good with numbers, like programmers, it's not like so they've created all kinds of amazing things, right? The numbers guys. They've computers, the internet, all that. And the article I read was in the Washington Post, and it was saying that, and I've heard this before, and I suppose you have too, but that artificial intelligence and algorithms, the things that are built by humans who are good at numbers, but they're still humans, that in building what they put into these robots, these artificial intelligences, end up creating essentially racist and sexist robots. Because that's why you see often with like facial recognition stuff and all kinds of other stuff, these brilliant computers and algorithms and robots get all flummoxed because they've been imprinted with all the biases of the brilliant numbers guys. So they've been doing experiments, and they asked a bunch of these programmed robots to scan, just tons of blocks of faces of people, and to identify the criminals. Yeah, I don't have to tell you what happened next. Yeah. Now, it wasn't every black person was a criminal, but they pretty much, clearly, when they came upon a black face, they were inclined to think criminal. Also, when they were asked to find the janitors, those tended to be black guys too, and on and on and on. So that this idea that when we create artificial intelligence, all we're doing is doing faster and versions of our own biased brains, because our own biases, not mine, because God knows I can't build a robot, but they get essentially baked into the artificial intelligence system. And that these things are already at work. And I can't imagine the kinds of damage that will be done by them. Or maybe it'll just be same old, same old. Just it's what it is a perpetuation of life as we know it. And by we, I mean the way black people know life here, the way white guys know life here. I just don't. I don't know. Okay, well, listen, guys, that's it for me, and I gotta go see if the president's okay, and I gotta go do. I'm going to move on, chapter 2 of my pre-algebra book, and that's it for me for the week. If I don't essentially get poached, and I mean baked, before Monday, I'll see you. I'll see you Monday. Or if I don't test positive, because it's all just starting to seem like inevitable to me. All right. I wish I were here tomorrow to talk over the show tonight, but don't miss it. I think it's going to be fascinating. Talk to you Monday.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.